In modern times, government in most countries are run by people's representatives. Such a government is known as democracy. It is a popular form of government. In this chapter, Democracy. The story of democracy. Human beings have always been concerned about governance since it affects them directly. Primitive tribes used to choose the ablest and strongest man to lead them. A greedy ruler would extract high taxes and keep the people poor and starving. For this reason, benevolent kings were adored while tyrants and despots were abhorred. Those were the days of monarchy, when kings ruled over countries and kingship was hereditary. That is, a prince used to inherit the kingdom when his father, the king, either died or was abdicated. Since no one could question their authority, kings ruled according to their nature. However, there were some good kings too, who always thought about the welfare of their subjects. Such wise and enlightened rulers ushered in the times of peace and prosperity. There were also kings who were more interested in their personal glory alone. These kings fought wars to expand their empires and taxed the people heavily, either directly or indirectly, so as to maintain large armies. This type of kingship usually brought much misery and hardship to the common people. These kings lived lavishly, while the masses generally lived lives of abject poverty. It was only when revolutions broke out in Europe in the 17th and 18th centuries that restrictions began to be put on the absolute powers of the kings. In certain countries, such as France, the king was executed and the people took charge of the government. Thus, these governments had no choice but to rule according to the established laws and not as per their whims. Secondly, since such governments were accountable to the people they governed, they followed policies that were in the favor of the majority of the people and not just a small set of privileged people. Thus, the authority of the people gradually became supreme across the world. In many countries, monarchies were either abolished or the king was abdicated voluntarily. For example, the recent case of Bhutan, where King Jigme Singya Wangchuk stepped down in favor of a democratic setup. In other cases, such as King Gyanendra Shah of Nepal, was forced to abdicate in favor of the democratic government. Meaning of democracy. In modern times, governments in most countries are run by people's representatives. This is known as democracy. Abraham Lincoln happened to unintentionally, while delivering the famous Gettysburg Address, define a democratic type of government as a government of the people, by the people, for the people. This type of government is considered to be the best form of government despite its drawbacks. In this system, the people themselves elect government, that is, their representatives who actually run the government. The people take part in all the activities of the government and exercise full control over it, because a government that does not do its work properly can be replaced by another set of representatives who do so. The representatives of the people not only make laws but also ensure that these laws are fully implemented and that no injustice is done to any individual. Democracy is based on the principle of equality. Since all men are born equal, they must have equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal status before the law. The latter is known as the rule of law. In a democratic government, there is no distinction between citizens on the basis of race, religion, caste, color, and birth. Equal opportunities are provided to all to be educated, to grow as good citizens, and to earn their living. They are also given equal rights to cast their votes for electing representatives in the government, to seek election, and to hold offices for which they are eligible, whether in terms of age, qualifications, or experience. Democracy ensures that all eligible citizens have an equal right to participate in the governance at whatever level, local, regional, or national. Development in India. One of the earliest instances of democracy in a civilization was found in the republics of ancient India, which were established sometime prior to the birth of Gautam Buddha. These republics were known as Mahajanapadas, and among these states, Vaishali in present-day Bihar was the world's first republic. The democratic Sangha, Gana, and Panchayat systems were used in some of these republics. The Panchayat system is still in vogue in Indian villages. In fact, it is the backbone of the democratic setup. The Greek period. The city-states of Athens, Greece, was among the first and one of the most important democracies in ancient times. This type of governance was invented by Athenians around 508 BC. In other cases, decisions were based on majority vote, that is, if most of the people opted for a particular course of action, it was accepted by everyone. Democracy in ancient Athens meant that decision-making was left to citizens, but the term citizen was so narrow that only about half of the population could participate in the voting process. In modern times, government in most countries are run by people's representatives. Such a government is known as democracy. It is a popular form of government. Democracy in the 20th century. The end of the First World War was a temporary victory of democracy in Europe, as it was preserved in France and temporarily extended to Germany. Already in 1906, full modern democratic rights and universal suffrage, voting rights of all citizens were implemented in Finland. Likewise, the February Revolution in Russia in 1917 inaugurated a few months of liberal democracy under Alexander Kerensky until Lenin took over in October. The terrific economic impact of the Great Depression hurt democratic forces in many countries. The 1930s became a decade of dictators in Europe and Latin America. Democracy and equality. The Constitution of India provides for a democratic form of government. The government is accountable, answerable to the people. Our society. In our society, some people are said to be of high caste simply because they are born in a particular caste. In contrast, some are treated as untouchables, though this is illegal under law. In the more remote areas of our huge country, where old-fashioned and inhumane ideas still hold sway, it is a sad fact that people from certain castes cannot mingle freely and dine with others. There are still some classes of people who are shunned in a social gathering and are debarred from public places such as wells, tanks, or temples. Such outdated beliefs have to go if democracy is to survive. Equal right to vote. In a democracy, the government is set up by the people through a process known as voting, where they cast their vote in favor of a particular candidate during elections. In our country, every citizen above 18 years of age has a right to vote and contest in elections. Therefore, we are free to exercise our right to try and choose our government. This is called universal adult franchise and is an essential element of all democracies. In our country, all men as well as women, irrespective of their caste, creed, religion, and place of birth, are equally entitled to participate in elections. All participate equally. There is no discrimination between higher and lower castes or between rich and poor. Other kinds of equality. Our country's democratic government is supposed to work for the welfare of the people. Do all the people in our country enjoy equal freedom? Unfortunately, our society is divided into different castes and classes. This hampers political and economic equality. Our society is still caste-ridden. It is full of numerous social groups. One's caste is decided on the basis of birth rather than profession or other criteria. However, in every society, some are rich and some are poor. Midday meal. One such welfare program is the midday meal scheme. Through this scheme, cooked lunch is provided to the children in elementary government schools. The Tamil Nadu government was the first to introduce this scheme in the state in 2001. Encouraged by the results, the Supreme Court of India asked all the state governments to introduce this program in their schools within 6 months. The main objective behind this scheme is to give food to undernourished children, but it has produced other positive results as well, such as decrease in the dropout rate of the children, more enrollment of students, and, above all, intermingling at meal times has helped reduce caste prejudices. Why equality matters? Unless we are able to provide equal opportunities to all sections of the society, democracy cannot be established. Each and every one of us is made of the same blood. The color of the blood is the same. So why should some people be treated as high and others as low in the social hierarchy? This distinction is man-made and not a natural one. This concept should be erased if we want to build a healthy society and establish a sound democracy. In fact, in the absence of social democracy, political and economic democracy cannot be achieved. When a person is treated as unequal, his dignity is violated, which breeds a false sense of inferiority. We will never achieve real democracy unless everybody is given equal opportunity to grow, think, and work. Our Constitution has laid down many provisions to promote equality among people. This recognition of equality includes the following provisions stated in the Constitution. The Constitution declares that everybody is equal before law. This means that there is no provision for a special law for any important person. In other words, the same law will be applicable to all from the president to a domestic worker. Besides, the Constitution also states that there shall be no discrimination on the basis of caste, religion, sex, or place of birth. In addition, everybody is entitled to access public places like tanks, wells, temples, etc. Moreover, untouchability has been abolished. So as to promote equality, the government has adopted several measures to eradicate the evil of untouchability. Apart from governmental provisions, it is the duty of every citizen today to join hands in making our society better and the country more prosperous. Every citizen ought to know his or her rights and duties. Only then can our country move ahead on the path of progress. The challenges facing democracy. The ugly side of Indian society includes ills such as the caste system, poverty, illiteracy, dogmatic extremism, etc. These features are hampering the growth of equality among people. Despite constitutional provisions, several kinds of discrimination still exist in our society. Excerpts from Article 15 of the Indian Constitution, prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. 1. The state shall not discriminate against any citizen on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. 2. No citizen shall, on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, be subject to any disability, liability, restriction or condition with regard to a. access to shops, public restaurants, hotels and places of public entertainment, b. the use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads and places of public resort maintained wholly or partly out of state funds. Contemporary challenges of democracy. It has been a long time since India became independent, but even today, people have their misgivings about democracy in India because of the following hindrances in its way. Illiteracy. In India, only 65.38% of the people are educated. There are a large number of illiterates in India. This widespread illiteracy is a serious threat to democracy. Economic inequality. Widespread economic inequality is found in India. 33% of the people are living below the poverty line. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. Social inequality. Though the Indian Constitution has made many provisions to establish social equality in India, yet even now discrimination on the basis of caste, color, race, etc. is common. Political inequality. Political equality is considered necessary to enable citizens to develop themselves and participate in the affairs of the state. Communalism. Communalism is still spreading. Being a divisive feature, it poses a serious threat to democracy. Lack of political stability. Political stability is essential if democracy is to succeed fully in India, but the last few years have seen a lack of political stability both in the states as well as at the center. During the year 1996-1997, 3 governments were formed at the center.